welcome everyone. My name is Art. I'm with No Code Devs. We also have, like I said, Paul on the line with No Code Devs. And we have Domhnall from Thunkable. So I want to thank Thunkable for doing this today and just, offering these types of these opportunities and events to the No Code Devs community. I think they're really powerful and helpful, and just the No Code community at large. I just want to share a little bit about Thunkable. Thunkable believes that great ideas are everywhere, but 99.5% of the world doesn't know how to code, right? So everybody should be able to get their hands on a digital creation without having the technical expertise or funding needed to hire help, which is a lot of people. So Thunkable takes pride in bringing the digital divide by making everyone active creators of technology. If you're new to Thunkable completely and you're just part of the No Code Devs community, definitely check out Thunkable. We also have Thunkable tutorials on our website, but there's a ton of great resources in their community as well. Domhnall on the line works on the creator success team at Thunkable. He helps individuals and businesses alike turn their ideas into published apps. He also runs the Weekend Design Challenge in the Thunkable community. Each week, the Thunkable community are asked to solve a problem or recreate an app using Thunkable and share their challenges and successes along the way. So that sounds really interesting. Domhnall, if you're interested in that, and that's a great way to spark creativity, be sure to check that out. But without further ado, I'll hand this over to Domhnall and let him get moving on this presentation.
Awesome. Thanks a million, Art. And thank you again to No Code Devs for managing all the sign up here, for promoting the event to their audience. It's so incredible to see such a huge sign up today. And looking forward, obviously, to all your questions and your feedback throughout the webinar. I suppose it's going to be an interactive webinar as well. So what I want you to do, if you're on a mobile device or if you're on a desktop device, is just to go ahead and click on the sign up link that I provide you there. It kind of takes you to our login page here. So what I'm going to start by sharing with is like the journey that you would take if you had never seen Thunkable before. And I'm going to give you a quick demo or a quick demonstration of an app that you'll be able to build in a very short amount of time. The idea or the inspiration behind this series was to kind of look at what are the kind of other platforms or the integrations that play really, really nicely with Thunkable. And so in the next couple of episodes that we do, or the next few webinars that we do, we're going to look at using third-party providers to like host data, to manage databases, to do all sorts of interesting kind of geo-related queries and this kind of thing. And if you have any queries or if you have any questions or feature requests, let's say, that you would like to see in the second or the third one, feel free to email or to pop them in the chat here, and we'll try and get those out to you or try to include them in a future webinar. But yeah, the main focus for today is like we don't want to go to the intermediate or the advanced steps without doing any of the foundation or the introduction first. So I want to give you as kind of comprehensive an overview as I possibly can. Going to spend maybe 30 minutes or so doing it, and then at the end of that, we're going to try and open it up then to take questions from everybody. So yeah, like I say, you would have, when you go to thunkable.com, you go to login. Getting started is, excuse me, it's completely free to do. So we realize that it takes a little bit of time to learn the ropes. As long as you have kind of a Gmail address or any email address, you can log in. And when you do so, you'll be taken to a screen that looks a little bit like this. You've got a variety of different projects here. And I want to show you, let's say this webinar here, we're going to create a new one, but I want to share this web app with you first. So the web app that I'm going to build, like I say, in the next half an hour or so, is going to be just a collection of some of my favorite cafes here in Dublin and Ireland. And the version that I have is actually going to allow you at home or online to upload your own. So I've got a very simple menu here. This is just a static image. We could swap it out. We could make this dynamic. But if you're on a mobile device or a desktop device, you should hopefully be seeing a screen, something like this. And you should be able to type in the name of your favorite cafe. So for example, one that was near to our offices in San Francisco was Blue Bottle. There's 2 E's in that. And there was coffee. Not sponsored, but if they do want to reach out, get in touch, and I could submit this then to my list that we saw on the first page. So here on the home screen, maybe I need to refresh it. Here, what we should have is an extra link, and clicking on any of these links then will take me to. So this will bring me to the 3FE homepage. And this one, hopefully, if I spelled it correctly, will bring me to the Blue Bottle webpage there as well. So if anybody is playing along, you should be able to add your own suggestion to this. If you go to the upload page, I'll check back on this later, and you can add your favorite local restaurants or cafes or whatever you would like. Yeah, this is too far down the line. Let's scale it back a little bit. Let's create our favorite. This. And we're going to make sure we're using the new drag and drop interface. So let me just run through this really, really quickly. So Thunkable, I think, as Art mentioned at the beginning, is a platform that allows you to build no-code apps for Android, for iOS, and for the web. So the project that we're looking at right now, it has the potential to be on the App Store, in the Play Store, and a web app. Given that the publishing to Google and to Apple takes like that a couple of days, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to be relying on the web app publishing. But what we can do as well, just to run through it really quickly, here, like so, we have two different options. So one, you can design your app, or you can add logic to it in our block section. We have a list of components up here like this. And at the moment, we've just got a single screen in our app. It's up to us to use our imagination to figure out what this is going to look like. And we do that here by adding in different components, like buttons and labels and images and so forth. We're going to kind of enrich this or supercharge it by adding in some data. So the example of data that I have here is like this. It's in Google Sheets. And because I want to share this with you, I'm going to just copy and paste everything into a single project. There is an option to connect directly to Google Sheets. If you'd like me to kind of walk you through that later on, I'm happy to do that. But here, what we're going to do is, as you saw in our demonstration app, is we're going to create a couple of different screens here. So we can have uploading, and we can have a menu or whatever it is like that. And if you want to add multiple screens to your app, it's very, very straightforward, very easy to do. We've got an option here in our screens dialog. We can have a navigator, so you can have tabs along the top. The bottom tab navigator is the one we're going to go with right now. And then we've also got a drawer and a stack navigator to choose from. So I'm going to go ahead and delete screen one like this. I'm going to zoom out a small bit here so we can see all of our screens. And we've got these kind of defaults here. So home, about, contact, and setting. I'm going to change these out. I've got some images here. I've picked them ahead of time. I've used this website. It's called Icons 8. It's a great website. We use them, as you'll see in the thing itself, in the platform itself. So here on my home screen, if I click on that, I can change out my icon like this. And it's very simple then, just to swap out menu like that. And I'm going to change it, rather than saying it about, I'm also going to change the name here to be menu. And if I change the name of the screen, it's going to be reflected in the tab that we see at the bottom of the page. And for the time being, I think we're going to just go with, we might even build the upload feature today, but let's add it in anyway. And one thing that I do want to look at, because it's a fun one to do, is this maps setting. So this is like a bonus for no-code devs here as well. Let's jump into settings. Let's change that out, and let's see if we can add some. Upload. So now we've created a very simple app here. It's got 4 screens. It's got home screen, a screen for our menu. We've got a screen here where we can upload or suggest new cafes that we want to add. And then we've got a map where we can visualize everything. So I'm going to zoom in a small bit here onto screen 1. That's a little bit too close. I'm going to pop a label here onto the screen. So this is where we get into the idea of everything being drag and drop. I can change the alignment on my text here, and I can just center that directly on the screen. And you can put any text then that you want in it. So there's my coffee cup. Here's our cafe finder. And we're going to list all of the cafes that we want to show. The other nice thing about drag and drop is that you can dynamically change the size of the elements on the screen, just like this. And the thing that makes it really interesting then is one of our data viewer components. So you can choose from the data viewer grid or I'm going to go with our data viewer list like this at the moment. We can, again, resize it so it's as big or as small as you want it to be on the screen. And in here, in our data viewer list properties, we've got a few different things that we can choose from. So let's see if I can annotate those, unfortunately. But yeah, let me pop in these ones here. Okay, so we've got, we're going to show an image, we're going to show the name of the cafe, and then maybe the address or the website or something like that. So this is the kind of the reference that I'm building from here. I've got an image, I've got a name of the cafe, and then underneath I've got a link that we can go to. Okay, so the main thing that's missing here is a source of information or source of data. We can go ahead and add a data source to our app by creating a new one. And Thunkable gives you 3 options out of the box. Like I say, there's an integration with Google Sheets, so we could run this directly from the spreadsheet if we wanted to. Airtable as well. A lot of people in no-code devs I know will be familiar with Airtable, how powerful that is, and all the features and functionality that brings. But for the sake of today's demo, I'm going to create this local table because it allows me just to do everything here in a single screen. So very much like a spreadsheet here, we can have the name of our cafe. We can have, let's say, our website. And I also have another column here for the image or the logo, maybe is a better word there, isn't it? For today's demo, we're going to use these cafes here. Name like that. And we want the user to be able to look up the different websites, like this. And then the logos I have just borrowed from their Twitter profiles. So this is very quick and very easy way of adding some kind of visual interest into your app. And so how do I connect the table here called coffee and these columns, which are called name, website, and logo? How do I get them to display in this app like that? So in the data viewer component, we have an option to choose our data source, coffee here, and it gives me these 3 data binding options. So I've got an image here, I've got a title, and I've got a subtitle. I'm going to use the logo that I use there, and you can see it updates automatically. We're going to use the name of the cafe itself as the title, and then the subtitle, you can go whatever piece of information you want. In this case, I'm just using the website. Now, there's a bunch of ways to test this out. One way, which is definitely the fastest, is to do this web preview. So you can actually preview it directly in your browser. But one of the most interesting things about Thunkable, I suppose, is that it's a native app. So we do also have an app that you can install on your app, on your phone, so iOS or Android, and you can live preview it. And that's what I was looking for there in the background, was the link. So if you go to thunkable.live on your device, it will bring you to the App Store for your device, and it will give you the option then to download this. So I'm going to just open up mine here. I have it screen sharing in another tab. Hopefully it's all still working okay. Check it out here. The connection is lost, of course it is. Just reset that. The link there, again, like I say, will open on Android and it will open on iOS, and it allows you to test native features then. So if you're getting to this, like using locations or using cameras or anything like that, it won't necessarily work with the web browser. You can go ahead here, live test it on your device, and that's kicked it over to my phone. So the tab that we're looking at now, this is actually what it looks like on my phone. So I haven't added any content just yet to menu or to upload or to maps, but I do have these nice clickable data viewer elements here for my different cafes that you can find if you're ever in Dublin. Now we want them to actually do something. And this is where we get into the idea of using our blocks. Excuse me now, 1 second.
Oh no, there's a question that came up while you were working here. I don't know if you saw it, but I don't know if this is someone that's following along, but Michael asked, is there a way to undo actions inside Thunkable while creating my app?
Yeah, we can have a quick look at that here. So in terms of like adding components to your app, let's say if I added something here that I didn't necessarily want, let's say I popped in a switch by accident. and Michael, you can probably clarify for us here. You can delete it over in the properties panel on the right hand side, or there's an option here in the components tree, and you can also delete it directly from there. I suspect, however, that you're thinking about the actions inside here, and we'll have a quick look at this. So let's say I accidentally deleted some blocks here. There is a menu option inside here to undo the last delete. Yeah, and right on cue. Hopefully that's well timed. If you do accidentally delete some blocks, you're able to reload them into your project there. So this data viewer we're using the blocks now, and we have full access to this table that we created earlier. So we have access to the name, the website, and the logo. And what we can do here is when we click on 3FE, for example, we want to go to the 3FE website. If we click on Blue Bottle, we want to be taken to the Blue Bottle website. And it's pretty straightforward to do. We have a block here in Thunkable for working with like that because it works really nicely on the web. We have a block here to open up any sort of link, again, in the phone's native browser. And we can use our data sources to actually read information from the table. So we've got our coffee table, table number 1. And the information that we want is the website in this case. And it wants it to know what row ID should we use. And again, we make it really easy. You don't have to do too much pressing and guessing here. You can actually just pass the row ID from the data viewer itself to this data sources block. So in case you kind of missed that, you grab this green block here and you just plug it in like so. And again, we're able to web preview this. So I can do it here on in the browser, and hopefully all of these links should now pop up and you're able to see these on the screen, and you're able to, yeah, exactly, take a look like that. And they also work in Thunkable Live. So if this kind of resets or reloads on my device, I'm going to kind of keep the screen on in the background here, but I click live test on device here. The app is going to be kind of like built and sent over to my device. And you should see it kind of just loading here, and it should refresh in just a second for your screen as well. If not, no big deal, because it doesn't do anything different on the device than it does on the web browser. Lovely stuff. Okay, so yeah, I've seen that one already. Maybe this one here. Lovely. So it actually opens the native browser that's on my phone here as well. Okay, so hopefully we're not moving too quickly there for anybody, but yeah, a couple of other examples then of things that you can do with Thunkable. So that was like one component called the data viewer, and then with how many blocks did we use here? 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks perhaps. We've got like a web directory here, so lots of different things that you can do with this, and we've seen lots of great kind of ideas coming from it as well. So to talk a little bit more then about the design and how the designer works, we can add a component here, such as an image. We are going to upload then here through our assets. So you'll notice over here, I've got a tab on the left-hand side that allows me to do design, data, assets, settings, and we've got this, actually this is worth spotlighting in and of itself. We've got this built-in help, excuse me, we've got a built-in help center here. And so you can jump straight into tutorials, you can read articles, links out to our documentation, links out to our community, and shout out to a couple of people from the community that I've spotted on the call already. But the thing that I wanted to kind of highlight here was the ability to upload files. So for instance, we can upload this coffee menu like that. And then here in my image component, let me just go back to my designer. I've got a image component here on my menu screen. I can change the picture to be my coffee menu. And again, because it's drag and drop, because it's kind of dynamic like this, yeah, you're able to resize it dynamically like this. Interesting question here from Rodrigo, and this isn't going to work particularly well on the web, but we can have a file upload here. So this is I'm going off script here completely, but in our camera blocks, we could change out our image to be a image from our photo library like this. So this will allow you, Rodrigo, this will give you access to the image picker, let's say. Oh, picker component. Okay, sorry. I thought you meant image picker. Apologies, misunderstood that slightly. But that'll allow you to upload an image to your app if you wanted to. Now, next thing we want to do then is talk about, well, now that I have one here, the ability to like layer components. And so you could have an image here. Another common thing that I would do with some of my apps then is to change out the background color here of this. Let's make this just yellow for a second. Let's just this is going to be like a little notifications icon here, let's say. Width, let's say it's to 30. Let's give it a bit of a border radius there. And yeah, this is the kind of a thing. So you're able to kind of like that, drag and drop. You can position the components anywhere that you like on the screen. You can layer them on top of one another. And there's a lot of different options there to get creative. And just unfortunately, in terms of like time constraints, can't really jump into those too much more. But for the last kind of 10 or 15 minutes, I did want to try and add a map component here because there are lots of different components. You can use a web viewer. There is this picker component that Rodrigo was, I think, is spotted here, which is still in beta. We're still testing it out. You can add videos. So again, if you were to upload MP4 files or something like that to your project, you would be able to see them using the video component. The Canvas component, that could actually be an entire webinar series in itself, great for creating games. And we have fantastic creators in our community, indeed, who have made some wonderful games using the Canvas component. And then we've got like the rating thing. So for this kind of cafe app, a rating component would be a really good addition because your users, or my users in this case, will be able to leave ratings based on like what they thought of Blue Bottle Coffee or Coffee Angel or anything like that. And the one that I wanted to start using here is the map component like that. So again, this is one that we're going to have on our device, which is why I have my screen mirroring set up here. And I also have some extra research prepared in advance. So I'm going to have location information. I'm going to have latitude values, and I'm going to have longitude values like this. So here, hopefully open these up. I've got latitude values and longitude values, and these are going to correspond. These are going to allow us to put markers or put positions directly on the map based on where a cafe is. And you can use it then for whatever you want, directions, navigation. The list is pretty much endless there. So let's have a quick look at the blocks for this map component, which lives here now on our maps screen. One thing we would want to do here is, you can detect when the user clicks on the map. You can detect, let's say, again, when it's a native mobile app running on a physical device, when the user starts moving around, you'll get this user location change. There's different options here, what happens when they press the marker and so on. But all we need to do here is work with this add marker block. And in order to add a marker or add a pin onto the map, we need to know the latitude and the longitude, which is kind of why I've prepared these in advance. And we can also specify a title and a description. And so our challenge as such is to use this data viewer component here. And we want to be able to click on Bewley's, and we want to be able to show whereabouts Bewley's is in our city. So we're going to use, again, same idea here, this get value block, but instead of using it as the link and opening up a web browser, we're going to use a variable. So variables might be a new concept to people, but we're going to create one called latitude, and we're going to create another one called longitude. But anybody coming from a kind of a technical background will have seen these before. You don't have to put in these values here. I'm going to just use a copy and paste here, but it's just good practice, I think. So when we create that, and actually the other one I want is my cafe name, like that. When the user clicks on a cafe, we want to get its latitude and its longitude, and we want to jump over to the maps screen, and then we want to put a pin on the map to show the user where they should go to get their nearest caffeine fix. So let's have a look here very quickly then. When this item is clicked, we want to start updating these variables. And again, we can use our data source block. We're only working with this one table in our cafe sheet at the moment. So I'm going to get the latitude value for the row that was clicked. We can do the same thing again for longitude. So we jump into variables. We've got a little set block here that allows us to update the value of our variable. We want information from our sheet. And again, we're going to use this time the longitude value. And basically, this is that we've just done the same thing kind of 3 times now. So we're using our row ID to get a value from our sheet. And I'll do it one more time just to be sure. We'll grab the name value here, name variable. We'll get the cafe name using that row ID. And once we have all of this information stored in the phone, stored in the device, what we can do is go ahead and navigate over to that maps screen. So at the moment, all of this information is stored in the memory of the phone. And again, that's another benefit of Thunkable is that you get really, really fine control over what you're storing and where everything is getting stored and stuff like that. And when our maps screen then loads, we want to display a marker. And this block wants 4 pieces of information from us. It wants the latitude, it wants the longitude, it wants title, and it wants the description. So how did I find those pieces of information? Did I make up the numbers? I just Googled them, basically. So for Blue Bottle Coffee, the latitude is 37 degrees, 37.78, and the longitude then is minus 122.42. And again, very pretty straightforward, pretty easy thing to do. So you could either copy and paste in static values like this, which won't change, or you can use these variables and you can get the information from your very first screen. So from latitude, the longitude, and you can, supports copy and pasting as well. And we don't have a description column yet, but okay. I think that should more or less do it. I'm going to do a live test. So again, this needs access to your phone itself. I'm going to just reload this very quickly on my device. Like this. Let me open up my screen mirroring. Thank you, David, for attending. Excellent question there, Peter, for about APIs. Let me just load this, double click this again, make sure it's fully loaded. Yeah, that looks good to me. I'll come to your question in a second. Okay, so yeah, we want to be able to see these various different locations of the cafes. We open it up here. Make sure that this is getting the information we wanted. I don't think I copy and pasted in the information, did I? So sorry, that's my bad here. Let me show you what happened. So it opened up the map. It's brought me to San Francisco, which is definitely not Dublin. And just in terms of troubleshooting, what's happening here? I don't see any marker. It hasn't gone to the position that I wanted to go to. And I'm asking myself, why has it done that? Well, it's because these values here for latitude and longitude don't have any values. So yeah, that makes sense. That's that user error, I guess. Let's paste in the latitudes. Let's grab this column here of longitudes as well while we're at it. And just stick them in there. And now we have all of these cafes, which are pretty much within walking distance of one another. We should be able to save that. Our blocks are still good. We don't need to make any changes there. If you have any blocks you want to get rid of, you can delete those. And our map screen then, that's still fine. No changes or no updates are needed there either. Okay, so hopefully this is refreshed. Again, if the changes don't work, you just do a quick refresh. Yeah, we need to just refresh this project. Right. Just put this down at the bottom of my screen. Yeah, let's have a look at beauties in the middle of the city. Just the app all together. Seems good to me. Just not loading or not refreshing here. Of course, the joys of doing a live demonstration. Thankfully, I prepared one earlier, and yeah, it does have all of this preloaded and pre-populated. Okay, so yeah, apologies for whatever kind of little bit of caching error there, typical in a live demonstration. But again, like I say, if you just do a bit of a reset, that should generally do the trick for you. We've got a few different locations here around the place that you can navigate to, and it'll show different locations on your map for you as well. So yeah, okay, that one's right. All right, that one should be a little bit further north, maybe. Okay. All right. So yeah, there's quite a bit there that I've covered. I see there's quite a few questions as well that have come in as well. What did I want to do? One of the reasons I think that I used this local table was so that I could share this project with everybody. So that has all the data in it. Again, another fantastic feature of Thunkable is from a collaborative perspective. If you have a designer that you're working with, if you have somebody who's a database specialist or whatever, and you want to collaborate on a project, you can actually create an entire copy of everything that you see there. I'm going to paste it in here, and again, we can send this out afterwards with the links, and we can let you know then how all of this works. But if you click on it, you should get an exact copy of my project. Hopefully you'll get the data that goes with it. If you don't, just again, drop us an email or swing by the community, and I'll be able to share this sheet with you as well. And like that, you can copy and paste it over. Okay. I'll go back and jump into some of these questions here. So if you have any questions in relation to this, Art, do you want to do any of the Q&A kind of moderation there? Or
yeah, for sure. And thanks so much for that presentation. I think it really demonstrates pretty quickly, in a live demo, the power of what you can do with the building blocks of data, as well as, some front end stuff pretty quickly. And obviously here we're not, focusing entirely on the design or anything like that. We're just showing you how everything works and how it can all be connected. I think that, for the no code devs community, as well, it's pretty exciting to see that you can, bring in your data from Airtable or some sort of external data source like Google Sheets. That would make it super easy if you have your data somewhere else to connect it right in. And even if you didn't want to do that live connection, you could just manually copy and paste so that the data is locally within the Thunkable app. So that's pretty cool. One of the questions, I guess, related to design is obviously you'll be whether you're publishing to the Android store or the Apple Store or the web, you're going to be, people that are using your app are going to be on a whole wide array of different screen sizes and devices. So sort of how is that handled with Thunkable, and is it responsive sort of automatically, or do you need to design for different screen sizes?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's responsive, I suppose, by default. That's how this version works anyway. So let's say, yeah, if we had a couple of different buttons here, they would scale auto magically with the different screen size as you were. So let's say we're building a simple menu here. So if you had a larger screen on one of the Max devices, or if you had a smaller device or an older device, these will be kind of proportional and responsive, I guess, and scale down accordingly. And all of that, I guess, is happening here at this stage then when you're leaving the platform. So as a new user, like I say, when you're trying it out for the first time, you get that opportunity to download your app for your iOS device, and you can install it and you can test it out. You can also download an APK. You can sideload that and test it out on your device as well. And then once you're kind of comfortable with the testing and your kind of QA that you've done there, you can start publishing as well. So the one that I used today, just to get it done really quickly, was publishing it as a web app that creates the URL directly for you, and then you have the option to publish into the iOS store or grab the AAB file then and publish to the Play Store as well. But yeah, you get I suppose to answer your question there, Art, ahead of time, you can download them and you can test them locally on your device before you get into sending it out to the store and having users come in and use your app, and you can tweak your design and your layout that way.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to test in real time and send it to your device so you can see how it looks on your device. Speaking of that, Asil, sorry, I'm probably pronouncing your name incorrectly, so I apologize, is new to no code. They want to know if they can use it. This is sort of in the same vein. I think you answered it, but to create a responsive website, or is it only for apps? So I think the answer is that you can, create a website as well. It's not just an app, but I'll let you clarify that, Domhnall.
Yeah, absolutely, Art. Yeah, thanks a million for the question. So that's one of the things that we do. Once you're ready to get your app published out into your users' hands, you've got options here. Then you can make it as a mobile web app, and that's kind of how I've intended this to be used. You can try it as a responsive web app as well if you wanted to, and this probably isn't going to suit the design that I've gone for, but we can have a look here and see what happens here. So it automatically scales. You can see it taking up the full width of the screen. I would create a kind of a custom element if I was doing this on a larger screen. And you've also got the navigation bar here across the bottom. You can see that it's automatically scaled, let's say, and then you can see here that this has been stretched. It was intended for a phone device. But yeah, you can see that's how that works as well. And then coming up as a thing that's coming soon, maybe as a sneak preview. Let's say you didn't want to support just phone devices, or you only wanted to support tablet devices, so you only wanted to have widescreen devices. This is kind of a coming soon feature, so it's not out available just yet, but this is something that we're hoping that will drop in October or Q4 at some stage anyway.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, that's why another reason to be on these webinars. Sometimes you get some sneak peeks into the product that you otherwise might not get. Another question here, is the data that's added to these apps public, or are you able to protect the privacy of the data?
Yeah, great question. And when you jump in here to, even this is probably a good idea, project detail page like this, you can preview your app. You can share. This is another way of sharing your app. And again, I can pop this link in here, and you can see it because I have it as a public app at the moment. And so you can see the data that I want you to see, the data that I want the user to have access to. However, what am I doing here? Editing the project. If you're coming to this with your account, Art, you don't see edit project because it's not your project to edit. You see a copy project or a remix project option up here. And when you remix the project, you get the bare bones, you get the outline of the app. So you'll get a data viewer with this layout, but you won't get my links, you won't get my web links, you won't get any of my users if I have user data and stuff here. This will all be anonymized by us. So we replace all of the data here with just kind of Thunkable dummy data, basically, that it retains the shape of the data viewer. It keeps it looking kind of nice and presentable, but it just an answer to the question, we don't share your public data. You might have spotted it there. We do have a pro feature. So this is intended for teams where they actually do explicitly want to share data with one another. And that's an upgrade option. And again, we're happy to provide promo codes to no-code devs users and attendees if they want to try this out. But as you're learning and as you're working kind of just by yourself, the assumption is that you don't want to inadvertently share your data. However, if you're working with a team or you're working with a company, we do give you that option there as well that you can opt into. But it's an explicit opt-in.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question here from Sandra. Where can I find data source from a project that was not marked off as try it out drag and drop interface? The layout is different when you do not have it in try it out mode. I'm going to have to definitely leave that one to you.
Yeah. This is our older platform. So we're in the process, Sandra. We actually have a question open in our community to get feedback on folks who are using the older version of the platform and the newer version that came out. This version that I'm working on here came out last December. So we're coming up on 1 year of this drag and drop interface. And I'll jump in and I'll show it to you in a second, but there should be an option in your data viewer to add a data source. Here, that blue button that I clicked earlier on. We can look at, if I can find an older one. Actually, I'm not going to go scroll through these projects. Old project. Again, this is, it exists. It's more like, I think it's more like kind of HTML4 stuff using rows and columns and stuff. So let's throw in a data viewer list. And then this block here, Sandra, if you click on add, and then the first time you use it, where it asks you to create a data source, you get that option to either add the local table, the Airtable, or the Google Sheets. So like the jumping in point maybe is slightly different, but the UI from there on is the exact same. So you can create a table. You see the exact same, you could copy and paste in here like that. And yeah, like I say, we have a question here in our community. We have a poll asking people for their feedback on the old version of the platform versus the new version of the platform. So if you are an existing Thunkable user, we'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on the two platforms. Yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Looks like it does. So perfect. This is just more of a comment here, but Kelvin says he used the data store earlier this year, and it's a very powerful component. Got the app created without blocks, so only had to connect my Google Sheet, and the app was created fully responsive. Yeah. So one question I have as as we've used Airtable quite a bit with the no-code devs data set is, are there any, like hard limitations on the amount of data that you could sync from Airtable, or the types of property types within, like, let's just say like images or dates or anything like that? Does that map automatically, or do you need to sort of map that out as you connect your data source?
Yeah, good question. Images anyway are fine. You can add them as an attachment and it'll just load them directly in. So I've been working with JPEGs and PNG and even WebP files and stuff as well, and they work flawlessly when they're attachments in Airtable. And even when you have a collection of them, we could kind of get into the weeds a little bit, but we have, and I think that was one of the questions earlier as well, but we have list blocks here for kind of doing list operations. And we also have these object blocks here. So you could get, image number 1 from your attachments field and that kind of thing as well, and display them in your image component if you really did want to get into it. Dates then, yeah, I don't want to, I know then obviously there's different types of formats for working with dates, but in here in our device blocks, you have a wide selection here of working with years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds as well. So worst case scenario, you would just build out a little function here to parse the string, the date string that comes back. The first, whatever it is, 2 or 4 characters are the year, and the next 2 are the month, and the next 2 are the day, and then you can just reuse that function over and over again on your dates. But yeah, that's a good question. Not when I have a demo of to hand, unfortunately, but it is that's the nice thing about these blocks, is that if you have a particular problem that you want to solve, you can just throw it into a function there like that, and reuse it over and over again.
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you. There's another one here from Peter. Is it possible to use a dynamic color from a database for elements, for example, background?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Now, the best example I suppose that I could give for this is that let's say you wanted an extra piece of information here, or like that you wanted an extra little icon in here. You can actually, as Sandra was alluding to earlier, you can create a completely custom. So we give you a good few different items here. So like you can just have a piece of text, you can have a text and an image, you can have kind of a more substantial card like this. But down here, I've got a custom data binding where it's using a ratings component, and that'd be the idea, like leave your rating for your cafe. But I've got a green background color here, I think, and I don't have the background property exposed at the moment. But when you create this, you can actually say, hey, I want to be able to change the background color of this card. I want to be able to change the colors of the stars in the rating component, or anything like that. Any of the properties that you have here. So let me just throw one in here like that. Any of these properties here, like our background color, for instance, when you go and create a custom data viewer item, you're able to say, hey, I also want the ability to specify the background color, and you can use like RGB colors, or you can also use hex colors like that. Yeah, any of the properties that you see there can be dynamically updated, but definitely the color one is the one that I've probably used the most, I suppose, myself as well in demonstrations past. And yeah, we have a video on our YouTube channel, so maybe that's a nice segue into plugging the YouTube channel, and it does demonstrate how to do a custom version of this. Cool. Thanks a million, everybody, for all the great questions. And then there was one, I think, yeah, it was Peter as well, talking about working with an API, parsing the JSON, connecting to a public API, and yeah, showing a way to do this or to work with this. So this is actually, Peter, I suppose maybe a good chance to plug episodes, whatever it is, 2 and 3 of this webinar. That's what we're going to be focusing on, is looking at connecting to third-party services like that, working with their APIs, getting information back. And then, as I very briefly touched on there, so for instance, you can use the web API blocks that we have down here. You can specify what endpoint you want to connect to. You can do whatever, querying, filtering, authentication, everything, anything that you can do with an API. If you have API enthusiasts here in the audience, it can be done through this component. And then when you have access then through these blocks to all your standard CRUD operations. And once you get them, then you have, once you know, do a get or a whatever request, you're able to use these object blocks. And a really good example, I suppose, and a recent example that we have for this to talk to you about is our weekend design challenge. So I think, Arch, thanks a million for kind of mentioning this at the beginning, but the most recent weekend design challenge that we did was about creating an app for collectors. And as a demonstration for the community, we were looking at different designs here on Dribble. And then in terms of functionality, this one here shows or previews how to connect the Open Library API. So you use our barcode scanner. You can scan the barcode on the back of a book. It'll pull out the ISBN. It'll pull out the number, and it will send a query off to this Open Library API, which, yeah, I have the docs here for. And then like that, you can get whatever piece of information out of it that you want. So like the cover art, the description, the page count, the publication date, any of those kind of things, they are all there. And it mightn't be as complex as you want, Peter, but that's probably a good place to get started anyway. So yeah, we've got a whole bunch of these great weekend design challenges. Like I say, solving a particular problem, giving prompts to our users, giving them an opportunity just to kind of get in and start playing with the platform.
Yeah, perfect. I think as you can see here, you can go pretty deep if you want, and we are going to continue this webinar series to talk about APIs and some other things with data, I believe. So stay tuned for that. If you registered for this session today, you will be invited to the next session. Don't feel like you're going to miss it. You'll get an email invite to that. I think maybe we can take one more question, and then just to sort of like respect everybody's time and the time we slotted for this, we'll wrap things up after that. But I'm sure Domhnall will provide his information if you have any additional questions. Also, the Thunkable community is very strong, so be sure to definitely check out the community. And if you post your question in there, somebody from the Thunkable team or the community itself will be right on it and happy to get you an answer. So the last question I see here is, are we able to get data from Firebase and list it in List Viewer?
Yeah, great question. Thanks a million for asking. Yeah, so again, Firebase integration or whatever supported natively in the platform. If you have a Firebase account, it's literally just a copy and paste to get it linked with your Firebase account. 2 videos maybe to spotlight here are the intro to app variables. And then to use Firebase itself, you will want to use our cloud variable component. So we're calling it cloud variables, but it's powered in behind the scenes by Firebase. So when I was creating these variables here, this was an app variable. It can be a temporary variable here. It can be a stored variable, so it'll be saved in between sessions. And then in answer to this question here, we can use a cloud variable as well. And it opens up, actually, it's got this great event block here. So anytime this cloud variable now updates, changes, this event can be fired, and you can have an update across every single user's app as well. So it's a very powerful component, and it's in here in your settings. So like connecting it up, you literally just pop in your API key and your Firebase URL, and that's how you get your Thunkable project to communicate with your Firebase as well. So like whether that's just using, strings or pieces of, simple pieces of information, or indeed here in this sign-in screen example, if you want to do user authentication, you can really get into the weeds here and use Firebase as a way of signing in your users. So get them to sign up with an email and a password. Firebase will automatically send them back an email then to validate. That's how you can kind of log in and authenticate your users and stuff. So Firebase, again, probably one that we could do a whole video on in and of itself. But definitely worth starting with those kind of 2 or 3 tutorials there.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. Again, super powerful. There's tons of different options, whether it's Firebase or, a different backend or something native. So I think that's probably about all the time we have. Unfortunately, as Domhnall said, there's just a ton you could dive into in any one of these topics. So definitely check out the Thunkable YouTube channel. There's a ton of information there. We also have some tutorials on no-code devs under the Thunkable tool you could look for. And we'll be adding more, in the future as well to our site. And then just in general, and then I'll let Domhnall sort of close it up here. But be sure, whether it's the no-code devs community, that's nocodedevs.com, or just the community at large, I highly recommend to get involved and share your projects and reach out for help where you need it, because I think you'll find that it's a very sort of collaborative type of community, and most people are willing to help each other and support each other in building the app or the project that you want to do, whether it's internal or external or whatever it may be. So just encourage you to get involved, ask questions, and someone will be able to help you. So I think that's it for me. I'll turn it over to Domhnall to sort of close this out, but thank you for everyone, for staying on for the whole hour. I think almost everyone did. So that's really exciting. Hope you got a lot of value out of this, and keep your eyes peeled for the recording, but I'll hand it over to you, Domhnall.
Yeah, thanks a million, Art. And just really to echo what you've said there, I suppose, thanks a million to the no-code devs community, and thanks to the members of the Thunkable team and community who have participated in the call today. Really appreciate your attention, and your questions have added so much to it. What makes it unique, I suppose, is being able to customize this demonstration on the fly as your questions come up. As I kind of mentioned at the beginning, this is just the beginning. We wanted to lay the foundations for this is a data viewer and this is how you display data. And I'm really excited to jump into some of the third-party platforms now in the forthcoming webinars and look at how you can take data, use our API component, and present that in absolutely any way that you want in a Thunkable app. And again, have that to share with, whether it's just your friends and family, if you're a starter new to app development, or again, if you have a commercial project or a work project that you need to get done. Thunkable is a really fast way and allows you to do that quickly and easily with minimal pain involved. So thank you again to everybody for your time and your participation today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.